Meanwhile, protests erupting as ICE conducted a raid in New York City's Chinatown, cracking down on illegal street vendors. The hot topic of immigration enforcement now set to take center stage at the final debate in the race for New York City mayor, and that is tonight. Alexis McAdams is live on Canal Street in Lower Manhattan, where the chaos unfolded. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Dana. Yeah, it looks a lot different right here in New York City this morning. But where I'm standing on this sidewalk is right near New York City's Chinatown. For decades, there's been a problem with people selling counterfeit purses, fake designer items here on these streets. But they're not here today after the federal agents came right here to the Big Apple and made at least 9 arrests of people who they say were in the country illegally. Watch. Recording there on their cell phones as agents with ICE, FBI, ATF, and other federal law enforcement agencies pulled up yesterday afternoon. It's part of a crackdown on illegal street vending, according to DHS. So when the feds started to make arrests, protesters stepped in, chasing agents to the nearby federal immigration building. We've seen protests there before, and it happened again. DHS telling me that the migrants arrested are all from West Africa and say at least one had a final order of removal and prior crimes, including counterfeit. But the protesters didn't want those people to leave the country, yelling at the agents to take off their masks as they blocked ICE in the city streets. DHS says a group of protesters with criminal histories were also arrested.
ICE out now! ICE out now!
And that's just a taste of what we saw. It kept going for hours. Immigration is a hot topic in New York City, a hot topic again tonight, we expect, for the debate for the New York City mayor's race. And both the Democratic candidate Zohran Mamdani and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo are slamming this raid. Mamdani calls this an aggressive and reckless raid on immigrant street vendors, writing an X in part. Once again, the Trump administration chooses authoritarian theatrics to create fear, not safety. It must stop. Cuomo also weighed in, saying that the raid, Dana, is an abuse of federal power by the Trump administration. More about fear than justice, more about politics than safety. Republican candidate Curtis Lewa hasn't weighed in yet. I reached out to their team, but in the past he did distance himself from some of Trump's immigration policies, saying he only supports its efforts to deport criminals. Back out here live, the question again this morning from ICE that I asked was, how did these people get into the country, Dana? They told me multiple of them entered in 2023 right at our southern border. So we'll keep an eye on it, Dana.
All right, Alexis, thank you so much. And Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons is here. So many questions to ask you. Thanks for being with us today. I want to show you some New York City officials slamming this ICE raid in Chinatown.
There is no excuse for sending military-style vehicles and a national law enforcement response for street vendors.
This wasn't about public safety. This was about targeting communities. None of this is about public safety. It is about fear and chaos.
We wholeheartedly reject the violence that ICE is bringing to our city. Subjecting street vendors to this kind of violence is deplorable.
So, sir, let me ask you this. This has been a problem for a long time. Now, is it that you have the resources or the means, or did you have intelligence that said, okay, well, these guys, we know that some of them were here illegally?
Yeah, Dana, thanks for having me. Yeah, so it's a bit of both, right? Obviously, we have to build a criminal case when we're doing such things as counterfeiting some of the purses that were stolen, sold on the street. But a lot of the shop owners down there have complained for a long time. And again, I wish those elected officials and the city officials actually waited for us to do media and press, because the 9 that were arrested, their rap sheets are long. Forgery, possession of drugs, drug trafficking, robbery, assault. So these are criminal aliens that were being targeted. Again, we do these based on criminal intelligence, and that's what we had. And, if you look at the video, everything was fine with the officers talking to those individuals and making those arrests until violent protesters showed up.
That was my second question, which is, were those protesters was it just organic? They just happened to be there, or did they have some sort of heads up, do you think?
Honestly, we're still looking at both angles of that. Obviously, that protesters came up really quick and fast, so we have to look and see what kind of situation that led to. But that's one of the reasons why you saw that Bearcat, the special response team vehicle out there, because we know everywhere we go, because of elected officials' rhetoric against violence on ICE, we have these protests. So what I'd like to ask the city officials are, they talk about street vendors, but that's illegal. and they've been calling on the city to do something about it. But again, we arrested criminally illegal aliens that have horrible rap sheets. So is that the people they want to protect? I don't think so.
Sir, we have an election here in less than 2 weeks. Is this just the first bite of the apple, so to speak, on what people in New York can expect to see?
Well, I think for the people in New York, they're going to see ICE and our other federal partners do the law enforcement mission, right? This wasn't something just organically happened overnight. We decided to go hit Canal Street. With any criminal investigation, you have to build up intelligence. You have to work with sources. You have to go ahead and have the right evidence and work with the U.S. Attorney's Office. So, but you will see an increase in ICE arrests because there are so many criminally illegal aliens that have been released in New York specifically, and especially that are being harbored in, New York, from the lack of cooperation there in New York City. So you will see us making those criminal arrests to make New York safe again. But I will tell you that it's definitely intelligence driven. It's not random. We're just not pulling people off the street. There was a specific reason based on criminal intelligence and criminal activity that we showed up on Canal Street.
All right. Let me also then take you to Los Angeles and the vehicles that were rammed. Let me just get your take on it before we show anything that the Democrats were saying. I mean, a TikToker who obviously he wants attention, and he certainly got it.
Yeah, it kind of boggles my mind as a career law enforcement officer. If you're in the country legally and doing illegal things, why you want to broadcast yourself on any type of social media platform. But, to your point earlier that you guys had made, this person received an award from the city of Los Angeles for documenting ICE law enforcement activities. And you can see that there are so many elected officials that call for resisting ICE, pushing back, defying ICE, that almost daily we have 2 to 3 of these ramming incidents, which is a deadly force. And it's putting our officers and agents at risk. And even though we're at 1,000% assaults on officers, I guarantee it's more than that, because every day my office is constantly dealing with reports from the field about these criminally illegal aliens either fighting with officers, trying to ram vehicles, or even worse, you have U.S. citizens that are involving themselves in a law enforcement situation that's just totally unacceptable.
Okay, so this is what we're hearing from some of the Democratic members of Congress and local government. AOC, the flyers from her office on how to evade and resist arrest. Karen Bass, the mayor of L.A., order to bolster the city response on immigration enforcement. Also, Gavin Newsom there. You got a flyer, Gavin Newsom, the governor, on a flyer in California related to a similar deal here. Rob Garcia is a Democratic congressman from California. He said this about the ICE tracking site on Tuesday in L.A.
I shared this with the mayor. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, the Oversight Committee will be launching on their website a master ICE tracker where we're going to be essentially tracking every single instance that we can verify that the community will be able to send us information on.
So what is your message for Congressman Garcia?
Wow.
And I guess in a bigger sense, this is starting, it's going to come to a head very soon. Not just from those on the street and the members of ICE, but members of government in a significant way on big positions. Go ahead.
I think to him is the fact that that he wants to put a target on ICE agents' back, so be it. But he shouldn't hide behind the fact that he wants to make his community safe. We've already seen from the Dallas shooting that apps like those are like giving a map to a hitman. So he's not protecting his community. He's putting the men and women in law enforcement at risk. Do they track the DEA? Do they track the FBI? They don't. So I really wish elected officials would talk to us and see exactly who we're arresting, see the criminal history, see the public safety stats we're throwing out. But the men and women of ICE are being targeted for just doing their law enforcement mission, and it's coming from elected officials, and it has to stop.
Right. What we're witnessing in New York is a disgrace. ICE agents, men and women risking their lives to uphold our immigration laws, just conducted a lawful operation in Chinatown, arresting illegal immigrants with criminal histories. And instead of supporting them, Democrat politicians are out there condemning ICE, accusing them of authoritarian theatrics and violence. Let that sink in. The people who enforce our laws are being villainized, while those who break our laws are treated like heroes. This is not compassion. This is corruption disguised as virtue. And it's being driven by one thing: power. Let's look at the facts, not the spin. ICE, working with the FBI and ATF, raided an area long known for counterfeit goods, fraud, and drug activity. 9 individuals were arrested, all in the country illegally. At least one had a final deportation order and a criminal record including forgery, drugs, and robbery. That's not harmless street vending, that's organized criminal behavior. And yet, the moment ICE agents showed up to enforce the law, protesters, some with criminal backgrounds themselves, flooded the streets, blocking law enforcement vehicles, chasing officers and screaming at them to take off their masks. Those aren't peaceful protests. This is a mob interference with federal officers doing their jobs. Now, let's talk about the real villains here. The politicians. Instead of standing with ICE, people like Andrew Cuomo and Zora Mamdani rushed to social media to call the raid reckless, violent, and authoritarian. Cuomo called it an abuse of federal power. Really? Enforcing immigration law is abuse, but letting convicted criminals roam free is justice? This is the upside-down world of modern politics. They don't care about safety, they care about optics. They care about a voter base, not the law, not the citizens who follow it, and certainly not the officers who enforce it. Let's call this what it is. Democrats have turned illegal immigration into a political investment. They want mass migration because it grows populations in blue states, and that means more congressional seats, more electoral votes, and permanent power. They are not defending immigrants. They are recruiting future constituents. While politicians cry about street vendors, real Americans are suffering. We have veterans sleeping on sidewalks. We have homeless families living under bridges. We have drug epidemic tearing communities apart. And yet, our leaders prioritize people who broke our laws to get here, handing them housing, legal aid, and sanctuary while our own citizens are ignored. That's not compassion. That's betrayal. Every taxpayer dollar that goes to defend an illegal immigrant instead of an American veteran is a moral failure of leadership. You cannot take care of the world if you've abandoned your own people. Sanctuary cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago love to call themselves inclusive. But inclusion without law is chaos. ICE Director Todd Lyons laid it out clearly. Every one of these arrests was intelligence-driven, not random, not racial, not political. They targeted criminal aliens, people with long rap sheets who should have been deported years ago. So when politicians accuse ICE of military tactics, it's pure theater. These same officials call police when their own neighborhoods are unsafe. But when it comes to illegal activity in minority areas, they suddenly cry racism and fear-mongering. It's hypocrisy on full display. By attacking ICE and siding with lawbreakers, Democrats are sending a dangerous message. If you enter illegally, commit crimes, or resist arrest, we'll protect you. But if you enforce the law, we'll vilify you. We now have mayors and governors rewarding activists who track ICE locations and share them publicly, putting agents' lives in danger. That's not activism. That's aiding and abetting. Imagine encouraging people to interfere with the FBI or DEA the same way. It will be unthinkable. But for ICE, it's somehow justice. This insanity must stop because every time we side with lawbreakers, we make it harder for law enforcement to protect all of us. This was never about humanitarian concern. If it were, Democrats will care about the tens of thousands of women and children trafficked through our open border. If it were about compassion, they'd fight to keep drugs and fentanyl from pouring into our cities. This is about power, numbers, and votes. Flood the system with illegal immigrants, protect them with sanctuary laws, and watch the population and therefore the political representation of blue states skyrocket. It's a cynical strategy dressed up as virtue. And while they play politics, ICE agents are getting assaulted, rammed by vehicles, and targeted online just for doing their jobs. That's not leadership, that's cowardice. We used to agree that a nation has borders, that laws mean something, and that citizenship is sacred. Now, enforcing the law is called hate, and breaking it is called bravery. America is built on the idea that we welcome immigrants, but legal immigrants will come through the front door, respect our laws, and become part of our community. Immigration should be controlled, scrutinized, and rare enough to ensure assimilation is a priority. We owe it to our citizens, our veterans, our working families, our children to protect the country they call home. Because without borders, without law, and without respect for truth, there is no nation left to defend. If you support the men and women of ICE who risk their lives to keep our cities safe, share this video. Let's remind America that law and compassion are not enemies, they are partners. So what do you think? Are these politicians defending people or protecting their power? Comment below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more hard-hitting, unfiltered commentary.